Okay, so we'll begin with the topic of breathing and exchange of gases. Okay, so here it is more for creativity. They have given this two part of this orange as a lungs part of it. Anyway, the lungs play an important part in the respiration process. See, today the coronavirus, it is affecting the respiratory system more. So they are having the breathing issues because of this COVID-19. So most of the cases of death due to complications arising out of the lungs getting affected by this COVID-19 virus is one of the major things that is affecting human society at present. So pneumonia, there are a lot of diseases which affect the lungs. But before that, let us understand the functioning of the lungs. See, we have an respiratory system. So external nostrils, nostrils leads to nasal cavity to pharynx, pharynx to larynx, larynx is the voice box. Then it leads to the trachea with C-shaped cartilaginous tube. Okay, it is similar to flexi pipe. So this trachea branches and enters into the lungs as the right and left bronchi. The bronchi branches further to form bronchioles, and the terminal bronchioles, they end up with this alveoli. So that is how the entire respiratory system it consists of. So there's a common opening between the foot pipe and windpipe in the pharynx. So the windpipe is closed, the glottis of this windpipe is closed by the epiglottis to prevent the food from entering into the respiratory system. Even then, once in a while, occasionally, a morsel of food might enter into the lungs. So, and we generally cough it out. Okay, so just remember about this part of it. Since there is a common cavity between the food and uh, the windpipe, so you might have also seen some of the people doing the yoga exercises wherein they put a cord of thread or rope from the nose and get it from the mouth. So that is because that is possible because of this common opening, that is the pharynx between the windpipe and foot pipe. Anyway, let us remember about this breathing and exchange of gases or respiration process. So there is exchange of gases. So now the respiratory system and circulatory system are closely interlinked. So the blood has to be purified. So blood purification, it differs at different regions. When we are going to say blood has to be purified in heart, we are just going to say that blood has to be oxygenated. When we say that blood has to be purified in kidney, it means that the nitrogenous waste has to be removed. So the same term, it implies different meaning. So the blood has to be oxygenated. So the alveoli is surrounded by the capillaries. If you remember, even when I was discussing about the structural organization, I had shown you the capillaries surrounding the uh, alveoli, and they have this diffusion surface through which the diffusion takes place from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So there is exchange of gases. So the heart pumps blood, the impure blood, that is deoxygenated blood will be having less amount of oxygen, more amount of carbon dioxide. So from throughout the body, they collect this, the blood which has collected the carbon dioxide, it is brought into the lungs through the heart. The heart pumps the blood by pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery branches into left and right pulmonary artery, and they reach the lungs. So within the lungs, the blood vessels further would have branched to form the capillaries, and they are surrounding the alveoli. So there is exchange of this deoxygenated or impure blood when it reaches the lungs, and when we inhale air, so there is exchange of oxygen from the inhaled air and that of the alveoli, and this is purely by diffusion. So ultimately, even though we have a respiratory system, it is just facilitating the diffusion to take place at a selected region, not throughout the body, at a selected region. So the air is exchanged with the alveoli. Okay, and oxygen is transferred from the atmospheric air into the blood, so the blood gets purified or oxygenated. This purified or oxygenated blood, they reach back the heart through the pulmonary veins. Okay, pulmonary veins get this oxygenated blood and they pump this pulmonary veins, they bring it to the left auricle, and from left auricle they enter into the left ventricle and they are pumped through the aorta. The aorta carries this purified blood throughout our body. So each and every cell of our body gets this oxygenated blood. They are supplied with oxygen through the blood. So blood is a river of life. I told you about. Not only they bring about the exchange of nutrients, removal of nitrogenous waste, but they also bring about an important aspect, that is transport of respiratory gases. So they transport oxygen to each and every cell of our body. Okay, so that is what the iota does. So this is an important aspect of it. Now the respiration doesn't end here. The oxygen that is received by the cell, so that is not just sufficient. They just don't require oxygen. So respiration is a combustion process. It's a breakdown process. So wherein some amount of heat energy is also liberated and there is a breakdown of food molecule to release energy. So now this oxygen will be taken up within the mitochondria and each cell undergoes cellular oxidation. What steps we studied under respiration in plants, the same mechanism, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, terminal oxidation, they take place in each and every cell of our body. So the cellular oxidation takes place. It is not just isolated for plants, even in human beings. So we have that aerobic respiration taking place in each and every cell of our body. So there is a glycolysis, there is a Krebs cycle, there is terminal oxidation taking place in the mitochondria. Glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. So that is how the glucose is broken down and energy is released in the form of ATP. So which we utilize for our various body activities. Like now I'm presently speaking, I'm spending energy, the ATP. So you are listening, you are spending some amount of energy. You are analyzing, you are spending some amount of energy in the form of ATP. So that energy is obtained through this process. So there is an interlink between the circulatory and the respiratory system. So you should now understand why the blood should be circulated. First of all, it has to get the impure blood from all parts of the body. They get it through the inferior and superior vena cava, and it opens up into the right atrium. From the right atrium, it enters into the left ventricle, right ventricle, and from right ventricle, it is pumped through the pulmonary artery. So you should be able to correlate this. So presently we'll focus only on respiration process. In the next process, circulation, when we discuss about that topic, circulatory system. So you can try to correlate the respiration and circulatory system, how they are closely interlinked. That we'll be discussing in the circulation process. Now in this present topic, we will focus only on the respiration process that is taking place within our body. But remember, in our body, they are not an isolated process. So respiration and circulation, they go hand in hand. Okay. So let us proceed with the breathing and exchange of gases topic. Excuse me. So let us understand the definition of respiration. What is respiration? It is the oxidation of nutrients in the living cells to release energy for biological work. Respiration is the oxidation of nutrients in the living cells to release energy for biological work. So that is what is respiration. You have a backdrop of a cartoon, isn't it? Human being is within this uh, the diving suit. So you can see the respiration is taking place both in the fish, the uh, maybe a shark as well as a human being. But respiration in shark is through air. If you remove the shark out of water, it dies out of suffocation. It is taking place through gills. So gills is a different respiratory organ. Human being respiration is through lungs. Without this diving suit, he cannot survive. Okay, so both of them are undergoing respiration, but the respiration process is completely different. You take the diving suit out of man, he might not be able to survive. You remove this whale out of water, it might not be able to survive. They die out of suffocation. So both of them have respiratory system, but it is different. In case of the shark, it has its gills. In case of human beings, we have the lungs as a for the respiration process to take place. But in both the organisms, so respiration is for the breakdown of nutrients to release the energy for their activities. The activities of human beings and shark might differ. For a shark, it is meant for moving from place to place, for the reproduction process, for the capturing of prey. So they would be utilizing this energy. We utilize our energy for different purposes. Okay. So remember about this respiration. So it is the oxidation of nutrients in the living cells to release energy for biological work. So what is breathing? Breathing is the exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide produced by the cells. So from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide produced by the cells, there is exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide produced by the cells. When we inhale, or we also call it as inspire the air, okay. So during the inspiration process, the atmospheric air is taken into, and you can notice that, so the diaphragm would become straight and the lungs would bloat up just like a balloon. Okay, so when we there is an inspiration of air, or when we inhale air, it is cool, you don't feel it to be warm, isn't it? So when you inhale air, so it is going to reach the lungs, the diaphragm becomes straight. So the breathing mechanism we'll be discussing about later. Okay, and when we are expiring the air out, so you find that there is, you feel it on your hands, it would be warm when you are expiring the air. When there is an exhalation of air, so expiration of air, so they would be warm. So because heat energy is lost during this respiration process, and carbon dioxide is removed whenever we exhale. So majorly the oxygen is taken inside whenever we inhale along with other gases, but oxygen percentage in atmosphere will be more than the percentage of oxygen in the alveoli. So which is broad. They have more carbon dioxide and less oxygen. The atmospheric air has more oxygen and less carbon dioxide. So there is diffusion. So oxygen from the atmospheric air, they enter into the alveoli. So the carbon dioxide from the alveoli, which is higher in concentration, they enter into the atmospheric air and they are exhaled out. So this is what is the exchange of respiratory gases, exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide produced by the cells. So that carbon dioxide produced by the cells is taken out. So what is breathing? It is the process of exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide produced by the cells. So this is what we call it as breathing. So respiration is the process of oxidation of nutrients in the living cells to release energy for various biological activities or for biological work. So that is the definition of respiration and breathing. Respiratory organs varies. So the general body surface itself is uh, direct diffusion. They don't have any respiratory system. The general body surface itself, throughout the body, it acts as a respiring unit. So example is the lower invertebrates like sponges. The entire body, the respiration takes place by direct diffusion. Sponges, coelentrates. So you can notice this. Uh, the jellyfish, hydra, obelia, all of them, they undergo the diffusion directly through their body surface. So the flatworms, you can notice this flatworm, so which is undergoing the planarium. So it is undergoing the respiration through its body surfaces. So most of them, they are undergoing respiration through direct diffusion throughout their body surface. The entire body surface undergoes respiration. Okay, so these are the respiratory organs for them. The entire body surface itself is the respiratory organ for these organisms like sponges, coelentrates, flatworms. The respiratory organs in some of them, like earthworm, the moist skin or moist cuticle. So cutaneous respiration, we call it as, through the skin or moist skin, they undergo respiration. So skin or the moist cuticle, so the annelids, they undergo respiration. Even in case of the amphibians, you can find that through their moist skin or cuticle, so they undergo respiration. So if respiration is through the skin or moist cuticle, we call it as cutaneous respiration. Examples are earthworms, the ferretima, leech, hiridinaria, the amphibians like rana, hexadactyla, bufo, uh, Bufo is a toad. Okay, so all these are the examples where respiration is through the skin or moist cuticle. So we call it as cutaneous respiration. So respiration by general body surface or by cutaneous respiration. Then respiration in case of insects through tracheal tube. Trachea are the openings through which they undergo respiration. Example, insects, centipede, millipede, spider. They are all examples for respiration through the trachea. So example, insects, centipede, millipede, spider. They are all examples for the respiration through trachea. So the respiratory organs are gills. So gills undergo bronchial respiration. Example are fishes, tadpoles, prawn. They're all examples for this bronchial respiration. So the gills, so the fishes undergo respiration by, so here it is by tracheal tubes in case of insects, centipede, millipede, and spider. You notice the tracheal is the means through which they undergo respiration, especially phylum Arthropoda, tracheal tubes, insects, centipede, millipede, spider. So respiratory organs in case of fishes is gills. Okay, they are just like the bristles of a brush. When you put the immerse the bristles of brush in water, what happens to them? They spread out, isn't it? And when you remove them out of water, they stick together. The same thing happens whenever the gills are within the water. The fishes are within the water. The gills are active and they are spread out. So whenever they are removed out of water, the gills are going to stick together, and this results in death of these fishes due to suffocation whenever they are removed out of water. So gills or bronchial respiration, we notice it in case of fishes. So if we human beings, just like the water story or something where they talk about human beings being amphibious, he has both gills and lungs. If we had that, probably we could have conquered even the oceans. So fortunately for the ecosystem, and unfortunately for us, we do not have that gills. Okay, so organisms which have gills, they have much more wider area to live, because only the earth's surface, only 20 to 21% is the land, remaining is occupied by oceans and seas, isn't it? So these animals, the fishes, they have gills which helps them in respiration within water or underwater. So examples are fishes, tadpoles. See the young ones of frog, we call it as tadpole. So if you remove tadpole out of water, they are going to die out of suffocation because they have only gills for respiration. So at the early stages, the prawn is also an example for uh, the crustaceans, which breathes only through gills. So all these animals are having gills. So the external gills are found in tadpoles. So you can just remember about that. So prawn also breathes through the gills. So gills, bronchial respiration, it is also called as. Examples are fishes, tadpoles. Tadpoles have external gills, okay, and prawn. They all respire through the gills. Then respiratory organs in most of the vertebrates, it is lungs. That is the pulmonary respiration, we call it as. Gills, bronchial respiration, so our branchial respiration. So the lungs, the pulmonary respiration. In most vertebrates, we have this lungs for our respiration. So even in a cat, so mammals, most of the vertebrates, they have lungs as a respiratory organ. So it is meant for pulmonary respiration. So let us now discuss about the human respiratory system. Okay, the human respiratory system we are going to study under two main headings: air tract or air passage and paired lungs. Okay, air tract or air passage and paired lungs. So human respiratory system we are going to study under two subdivisions: the air tract, just like the digestive tract or alimentary canal, air tract or air passage, and paired lungs. So these are the two things that we are going to study under the human respiratory system. So the nostrils, it leads to nasal cavity, then it leads to pharynx, trachea, and the trachea, it further leads to the lungs. Okay, so trachea branches to form the bronchus, bronchi, that is plural. So bronchi branches to form bronchioles, and bronchioles ends up with alveoli. So now if you look into the number of lobes of the lungs, okay, the right lung, R3, I remember it as, or right lung, whenever I remember it as RT, not R3, R3. Okay, right lung has three lobes. L2 is left lung has only two lobes. So there are three lobes in the lung. So R3. So right lung has three lobes. L2 is left lung has two lobes. Then there is a diaphragm, which is a dome-shaped structure. So whenever we are inhaling the air, so the diaphragm becomes straight. So whenever we are exhaling the air, the diaphragm becomes dome-shaped, and they are going to push the air. They squeeze out the air from the lungs. Okay, the lungs are similar to the balloon. Okay, whenever the air enters, they bloat up. Whenever there is exhalation, they are going to shrink. So this you can notice there. There's a diaphragm also. Then the membrane which protects the lung, we call it as pleura. So the membrane which is protecting the lung, we call it as pleura. Okay. That is about human respiratory system. So air tract or air passage, it leads from nostrils to nasal cavity to pharynx. So the pharynx is a common opening wind and foot pipe. Then there is the windpipe. So the wind is conveyed through this trachea or C-shaped. So from larynx, next after pharynx, they enter into the larynx. So from larynx, they enter into this trachea. Trachea is like flexi pipes. You might have seen the flexi pipes for the electric fittings. Okay, so the flexi pipes, they are also flexible, isn't it? It is almost spring-like. Similar to that, the trachea is. Trachea has C-shaped cartilaginous rings. Trachea is having the C-shaped cartilaginous ring. So the trachea branches to form the right bronchus and left bronchus. So the right bronchus further branches to form bronchioles, and they end up with terminal bronchioles, which ends up with alveoli. So you also find the ribs which are enclosing this lungs, and they are protecting the lungs, the ribs. Okay. Then finally the diaphragm. So let us now understand the air passage or air tract. So the conducting part is there in the air passage or air tract. The conducting part, it is the conducting part of our body. The air passage or air tract, it transports atmospheric air into the alveoli finally. It transports the atmospheric air, the air tract into the alveoli. It clears air from foreign particles. Okay, it is going to clear the air from foreign particles. We have some hair, 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 as well as mucus. They clear from the foreign particles. It humidifies and brings the air to body temperature. So when they are entering into this air tract, the temperature of this air is humidified, that is, it is reduced, and it brings the air to body temperature. Okay, it humidifies and brings the air to body temperature. The air passage or air tract, so it is from the external nostrils to nasal passage or nasal passage, then it leads to nasal chamber or nasal cavity. Okay, from there it leads to the pharynx. Pharynx has this nasopharynx. From nasopharynx to glottis. So glottis is covered by epiglottis, you know that. From glottis, they lead to larynx. Larynx is the voice box. Okay, so the larynx leads to trachea, the C-shaped cartilaginous ring. From trachea to primary bronchi. From primary, so the bronchus, primary bronchus branches to form secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi branches to form tertiary bronchi. Tertiary bronchi are going to branch to form the bronchioles. So the bronchioles ends up with terminal bronchioles, and this terminal bronchioles leads to the respiratory bronchioles where they can undergo diffusion. And this respiratory bronchioles has the sac-like structure called as alveoli. So this is the entire air passage or air tract from external nostril, nasal passage, nasal chamber, nasopharynx, from nasopharynx to glottis, glottis to larynx or the voice box. So from larynx to trachea, trachea to primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, tertiary bronchi further branches to form bronchioles. So the bronchioles ends into terminal bronchioles. Terminal bronchioles ends up with respiratory bronchiole, and this respiratory bronchiole leads to the respiratory bronchiole. They lead to this alveoli or sac-like structures. So alveolar sacs, so they are almost 8 million. So it is just an rough estimate. Respiratory bronchioles are 5 lakh in number. Okay. So now if you look into the conducting zone, so from the external nostrils to everything, it has taken place. So the number of trachea is one. So primary bronchus is two. So nearly 60,000 primary bronchi you find. Okay. So the terminal bronchi, so the bronchus branches to secondary bronchus. Secondary bronchus branches to tertiary bronchus. Tertiary bronchus forms the bronchioles. Bronchioles ends up with terminal bronchiole. Terminal bronchiole ends up with respiratory bronchiole, and they have this alveoli, the sac-like structure. It looks like a bunch of grape, isn't it? The alveolar duct, it has this alveoli. Each terminal bronchiole gives rise to many thin and vascularized alveoli. So they can also undergo diffusion, thin and vascularized alveoli. So the larynx or sound box. So you can notice here the epiglottis, the hyoid bone, thyroid membrane, the thyroid cartilage. Okay, cricothyroid muscles, you can notice them. Then cricoid cartilage, then trachea are there. Okay, larynx or sound box or voice box is a cartilaginous box which helps in sound production. So larynx or sound box or voice box, it is a cartilaginous box. It is made up of cartilage which helps in sound production. So if you're very good at singing next time, remember your larynx or sound box or voice box is finely tuned for all those different ragas. Okay, so larynx, sound box, or voice box is a cartilaginous box which helps in sound production. So during swallowing, glottis is closed by epiglottis. So you can see the epiglottis here. It is a thin elastic cartilaginous flap to prevent the entry of food into the larynx. So trachea, all bronchi and initial bronchioles are supported by incomplete cartilaginous half C-shaped rings. Incomplete cartilaginous C-shaped rings. Trachea, all the bronchi and initial bronchioles, they are all supported by incomplete cartilaginous half rings, that is C-shaped cartilaginous rings. They are going to prevent them from collapsing. This incomplete cartilaginous half rings, they prevent them from collapsing. So you should understand about this trachea. So they are made up of all bronchi and initial bronchioles are separated by the incomplete cartilaginous half C-shaped rings. The vocal cords in action. So this video isn't there anyway. So lungs are situated in thoracic chamber. So where is the lungs? We are now discussing about lungs. So our discussion on the air tract has completed. So we had discussed about the air passage or air tract. Now we are going to discuss about lungs. We have a pair of lungs. The lungs are situated in thoracic chamber and they rest on diaphragm. So right lung has three lobes, one, two, three, and left lung has two lobes, one and two. So I've always told you how you can remember the lungs is lungs are three. Right lung has three lobes, L2. Left lung has two lobes. So each lung is covered by a double layered pleura. So you can notice this pleura, double layered pleura. They have encircled this, highlighted this. The outer parietal pleura and inner visceral pleura. They have two membranes, outer parietal pleura and inner visceral pleura. So the pleural fluid is present in between these two layers. So the pleural fluid is present in between these two layers, which lubricates the surface of the lungs and prevents friction between the membranes. So the pleura lubricates the surface of the lungs and prevents friction between the membranes. So that is the function of the pleura. So the pleural fluid is present in between these two layers. They lubricate the surface of the lung and prevent friction between the membranes. So that is the role of pleural fluid. So they are like shock absorbers. Okay, even shock absorbers of your bikes, they have fluid, so they absorb the friction. So similarly, the pleural fluid, they not only lubricate the surface of the lungs, but they also prevent friction between the membranes. So lungs equals, what is lungs? Equals bronchi plus bronchioles plus alveoli. So that is what lung is about. Lung equals bronchi plus bronchioles plus alveoli. So this itself is lungs. So alveoli and their duct form respiratory or exchange part of respiratory system. So the alveoli and their duct form the respiratory or exchange part of respiratory system. Alveoli or and their duct, alveoli duct form respiratory or exchange part of respiratory system. Alveoli are the structural and functional unit of lungs. If they ask you for 1 mark, the structural and functional unit of lungs are alveoli. Remember, the structural and functional unit of lungs are alveoli. So lungs equals bronchi plus bronchioles plus alveoli. So that is what they are majorly composed of. Alveoli and their ducts, they form the respiratory or exchange part of respiratory system. Alveoli are the structural and functional unit of lungs. So the internal structure of lungs will, the human being will just study the internal structure of lungs. Okay. So that is again a video. We don't have that anyway. The steps of respiration, pulmonary ventilation or breathing. So the breathing is also called as pulmonary ventilation. Another name for breathing is pulmonary ventilation. So gas exchange between lung, alveoli, and blood. So the gas exchange between the lung, alveoli, and blood. So this is what is the gas exchange that is taking place. Then there is transport of gas, oxygen transport and carbon dioxide transport. So gas transport, respiratory gas transport is brought about by blood. So there is a transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide transport. Gaseous exchange between blood and tissues. So gas exchange between blood and tissues, cellular or tissue respiration. So this is the cellular oxidation which takes place within the mitochondria. So this is cellular or tissue respiration that you should remember about. Then the next one is mechanism of breathing. So the mechanism of breathing, so there are two steps: inspiration, expiration, inhalation, exhalation. So inspiration, expiration. So the active intake of air from atmosphere into lungs. So the active intake of air from atmosphere into lungs, we call it as inspiration. The passive expelling of air from the lungs, we call it as expiration. So the passive expelling of air from the lungs, we call it as expiration. So active intake of air from the atmosphere into lungs, we call it as inspiration. Passive expelling of air from the lungs, we call it as exhalation. So mechanism of breathing, what is going to happen during uh, inspiration? So the diaphragm contracts, that is, the diaphragm is going to become flattened, it becomes straight. The diaphragm contracts or flattens. Then external intercostal muscles, see, you can see this rib cage, they expand as rib muscles contract. So when rib muscles contract, they are opening up the rib, so rib cage expands. So when the rib muscles contract, that is external intercontra muscles, costal muscles, external intercostal muscles, when they contract, the ribs and sternums, they lift up. So they are going to open up. As a result of that, the volume in dorsoventral axis increases. Okay, the diaphragm contracts. So vertical volume. So the volume in dorsoventral axis, it increases. The vertical volume, that is antero-posterior axis, the vertical volume also increases. There is vertical volume increase by the flattening of diaphragm. So the expansion of this ribs and sternums lifting up because of contraction of intercostal muscles. So they are going to increase the volume in the dorsoventral axis. So volume increases from the antero-posterior axis, dorsoventral axis also, the volume increases during inspiration. So the thoracic volume increases. So in all the four directions, antero-posterior, then dorsoventral axis, there is increase in volume. So thoracic pressure decreases. When thoracic volume increases, and here you can notice the thoracic pressure decreases. So both are happening. While thoracic volume increases, thoracic pressure decreases. As a result of that, lungs expand and pulmonary volume increases. So the lungs expand and pulmonary volume increases by the entry of air. So the intrapulmonary pressure decreases and air moves from outside into the lungs. So lungs also expand and pulmonary volume increases. The intrapulmonary pressure within the uh, lungs, the intrapulmonary pressure, they decrease, because of which air moves from outside into the lungs. Because intrapulmonary pressure decreases, there is sucking in of air from outside into the lungs. Okay, this is the exact process that is taking place during inspiration. Two immediate things that are happening is diaphragm flattens and the intercostal muscles, they contract, and the rib cage and sternum, they are lifted up. Okay, as a result, the volume increases in the because of flattening of diaphragm, the volume increases in the antero-posterior region, that is anterior and posterior axis. The vertical volume increases. The horizontal volume, that is the volume in dorsoventral surface, also increases, axis also increases. So there is a the thoracic volume increases, thoracic pressure decreases. So both are happening. There is a volume increase and pressure decreasing. Okay. So the lungs expand and pulmonary volume increases. So the volume of the lungs also increases. So the intrapulmonary pressure decreases within the lungs. The pressure decreases. As a result, it creates a suction pressure. So air moves from outside into the lungs. Air moves from the atmosphere into the lungs. This is the mechanism of breathing that is taking place in inspiration. So you can just note down all these. So that is what is exactly happening during the mechanism of breathing. Then the expiration process. So the intercostal muscles and diaphragms relax. So the intercostal muscles had contracted. Okay. And as a result, the rib cage and sternum had lifted up during inspiration, but during expiration, they relax. As a result, the ribs and sternum come back to their original position. The diaphragm becomes dome shaped. The diaphragm was flattened, it becomes dome shaped. So thorax regains its original position. See, you can see that it becomes compact. The thorax regains its original position. So the thoracic volume decreases. As a result, the pulmonary volume also decreases. So the thoracic volume decreases, the pulmonary volume decreases. It is almost a squeezing effect. The air moves out. Okay, so air moves out from the alveoli into the atmosphere. So thoracic volume decreases, pulmonary volume decreases, air is expelled out, air moves out. So during forceful expiration, abdominal muscles and internal intercostal muscles they contract. So during forceful expiration, the abdominal muscles and internal intercostal muscles they are going to contract. That is during forceful expiration. Along with this intercostal internal muscles, so as well as abdominal muscles they are going to contract during forceful respiration. That is about mechanism of breathing. So the exhaling and inhaling part of it. So the respiratory volumes and capacities we have. So accordingly, we have different types of respiratory volumes and capacities. Definition we should know. TV, that is tidal volume. IRV, inspiratory reserve volume or complemental air. So ERV, that is expiratory reserve volume or supplemental air. Then RV, residual volume, inspiratory capacity, IC, expiratory capacity, EC, then functioning residual capacity, FRC, vital capacity, VC, total lung capacity. So these are the different terms we'll be studying for the respiratory volumes and capacities. So we are going to study about tidal volume, TV, inspiratory reserve volume, or it is also called as complemental air or IRV, expiratory reserve volume or supplemental air or ERV, RV residual volume, uh, then inspiratory capacity, expiratory capacity, ICEC, FRV, functional residual capacity, vital capacity, VC, total lung capacity, TLC. So let us begin with each and every part of this respiration process. So the tidal volume TV, that is volume of air inspired or expired during a normal respiration. Volume of air which is taken in or expired during a normal respiration, we call it as tidal volume. It is about 500 ml. So without much of consciousness, you are not doing any pranayama or other things. So if it is a normal inspiration or expiration, so there is 500 ml of air. The volume of air either inspired or expired during a normal respiration, we call it as tidal volume. So it is about 500 ml, that is 6,000 to 8,000 ml per minute we are going to take it or expel out. So it is 500 ml per second. So it would be nearly 6,000 to 8,000 ml per minute. That is tidal volume. Inspiratory reserve volume or complemental air, additional volume of air that can be inspired by forceful inspiration. So whenever you are doing pranayama, when you take in deep breath, so you are going to take forceful inspiration. That is not just normal inspiration, it is forceful inspiration. So that we call it as inspiratory reserve volume or complemental air. Additional volume of air that can be inspired by forceful inspiration. So we call it as the inspiratory reserve volume, that is 2500 to 3000 ml. That is 2.5 to 3 liters of air we can inspire by forceful inspiration. 2500 to 3000 ml. The expiratory reserve volume or supplemental air ERV, additional volume of air that can be expired by a forceful expiration. So forcefully we can expire about 1000 to 1100 ml. So the additional volume of air that can be inspired by a forceful expiration, especially you'll be doing this during pranayama, deep breathing, and you are going to forcefully exhale out. Okay, forcefully inhale, forcefully exhale out, that you are going to do. So additional volume of air that can expire by a forceful expiration, it is 1000 to 1100 ml. So nearly 1 liter. Okay. So now you have understood the definition of tidal volume, expiratory reserve volume, and inspiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory reserve volume, we call it as complemental air. Expiratory reserve volume, we call it as supplemental air. So one activity that I want all of you to do is close your eyes, okay, and deep, very breathe, that is forceful inspiration, you do it, hold it for 3 to 4 seconds and forcefully expire it out. That is not slow breathing, but fastly you're going to exhale it out. So let us begin with that. We'll start. One, two, three, start. So this activity, what you did, it is forceful, inspiratory reserve volume and expiratory reserve volume. So the forceful or additional volume of air that we can inhale by a forceful inspiration, we call it as inspiratory reserve volume. So additional volume of air that we can expire by forceful expiration, we call it as the supplemental air or expiratory reserve volume. You might have noticed that you could take in more amount of air than you could exhale out. Okay, that is what you notice. So you were able to inhale inspiratory reserve volume, it is nearly 2500 to 3000 ml, and exhaling it is only from 1000 to 1100 ml ERV. Okay, the next definition is residual volume. So the volume of air remaining in lungs after a forcible expiration, that volume of air that remains in lungs, we call it as residual volume. Residual is a left out volume. So the residual volume is the volume of air remaining in lungs after forceful expiration. So that is around 1100 to 1200 ml. So now we defined about vital capacity, normal breathing, what air we take. Then we defined about inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume. Now residual volume is after forceful expiration, the volume of air that remains in the lungs, we call it as residual volume. It is 1100 to 1200 ml. Okay. The next one is inspiratory capacity. What is the capacity of inspiration that we can take up totally? So total volume of air inspired after a normal expiration. So the total volume of air inspired after a normal expiration, that is total volume of air. So it includes tidal volume plus IRV. So tidal volume was 500 and it was 2000 to 2500 was IRV. So when you add it up, 500 plus 2500 or 3000, So you get it as 3000 to 3500 ml. So total volume of air inspired after normal expiration, we call it as the inspiratory capacity. It is 3000 to 3500 ml. So inspiratory capacity equals tidal volume plus the IRV. Now expiratory capacity, it is tidal volume plus expiratory uh, reserve volume. Okay, so that will be the expiratory capacity. So total volume of air expired after a normal inspiration. So the total volume of air expired after a normal inspiration, that is tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume was 1100 to 1200 plus 500, you add it up. So it is going to be 1500 to 1600 ml. So the expiratory reserve volume will be 1500 to 1600 ml. So that is the expiratory capacity. So inspiratory capacity, expiratory capacity. The respiratory volumes and capacity, the next definition is FRC, functional residual capacity. So volume of air remaining in the lungs after a normal expiration. So volume of air remaining in the lungs after a normal expiration, that is ERV plus RV, residual volume. Okay, ERV plus RV. So that we call it as functional residual capacity, which is 2100 to 2300 ml. So volume of air remaining in the lungs after a normal expiration, it would be uh, the normal expiration, that is ERV plus RV. So ERV, you know, it has 1100 to 1500 it would be. So the RV is residual volume. So residual volume is also somewhat the leftover air. So after forcible expiration, so that is 1100 to 1200 ml plus expiratory reserve. So when you add it up, so you get the functional residual capacity, so which is equivalent to 2100 plus to 2300 ml. So it is functional residual volume as volume of air remaining in the lungs after a normal expiration. Volume of air remaining in the lungs after a normal expiration, we call it as functional residual capacity. It is 2100 to 2300 ml. This they have asked many times in exams. Vital capacity, the volume of air that can be breathed in after a forced expiration. So volume of air that can be breathed in after a forced expiration, or volume of air that can breathe out after a forced inspiration. That can breathe in or breathe out after a forced expiration or forced inspiration, we call it as vital capacity. Vital capacity is nothing but ERV plus TV plus IRV. So expiratory reserve volume uh, plus tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So it is nearly 3500 to 4500 ml. So vital capacity important from exam point of view. Remember that ERV plus TV tidal volume plus IRV inspiratory residual volume. So expiratory residual volume plus tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So totally it is 3500 to 4500 ml. Next is total lung capacity. So the total lung capacity is the last definition for this residual volumes and capacity. So the total volume of air in the lungs after a maximum inspiration. So maximum inspiration that you have. So total volume of air in the lungs after a maximum inspiration. That is residual volume plus expiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So total volume of air in the lungs after a maximum inspiration, residual volume plus expiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume plus. So here it was only ERV plus TV plus IRV. So here it is ERV plus TV plus IRV. Apart from that, residual volume. Okay, so those four are taken up. RV is added up for this vital capacity, or you can also call it as vital capacity plus RV. So this definition, total lung capacity, it is 5,000 to 6,000 ml. What is the total lung capacity? It is 5,000 to 6,000 ml. So the part of respiratory tract from nostrils to terminal bronchi, which are not involved in gaseous exchange, there is no diffusion taking place. So till the terminal bronchi, okay, respiratory bronchi they undergo, but terminal bronchi, they're not involved in a gaseous exchange. We call it as dead space. Dead air volume is about 150 ml. So this dead space, so the part of respiratory tract from nostrils to terminal bronchi, which are not involved in any gaseous exchange, we call it as dead space. The dead or air volume is about 150 ml. So that is one thing about dead air volume, DAV, is 150 ml. So respiratory cycle is an inspiration plus an expiration. Normal respiratory rate or breathing without our conscious involvement is 12 to 16 minutes, 16 times per minute. So normal breathing, respiratory breathing rate is 12 to 16 times per minute. Spirometer or respirometer, it is used to measure the respiratory rate. So spirometer or respirometer, you can see here, this is the device, spirometer or respirometer. They are used to measure the respiratory rate. So the spirometry. So our respirometer, they are used to measure the respiratory rate. Okay. So I think this would be sufficient for today's class. And in next class, we'll discuss the gaseous exchange. So now you have any doubts or clarification, dear students, we can have a discussion on that. So definitions are little confusing it is, but they are all interlinked. So if you remember them step by step, it would be easy. See, after vital capacity, you can uh, calculate the total lung capacity. Total lung capacity equals vital capacity plus there was one more term, that is the RV, the residual volume. Okay, so vital capacity itself is the tidal volume ERV plus TV plus IRV, expiratory residual volume plus tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So residual volume plus VC, you can also say it as. So it is 5,000 to 6,000 ml. So vital capacity, total lung capacity, they've asked it many times. So vital capacity is nothing but it is a sum of expiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. It is 3 lakh 3,500 ml to 4,500 ml, 3.5 liter to 4.5 liter. Okay, that is what we call it as vital capacity. So the total lung capacity is 5,000 to 6,000 ml. So it is vital capacity plus residual volume. So that is 3,500 to 4,500 plus RV. So that is going to give 5,000 to 6,000 ml. Okay, any doubts you have, dear students? You want any doubts to be clarified?